Michael Jackson and his team were exhausted and starving after the concert. They walked into the first restaurant they saw, but the owner came straight to their table and said, "Gentlemen, only whites can stay here. Get out of my restaurant." What Michael did next didn't just destroy that man's business. It changed the entire city forever. What nobody in that restaurant knew was that Michael had already made a decision that would ruin this man's business within 48 hours. But what I'm about to tell you will blow your mind. The Dallas leg of the Victory Tour had ended just 2 hours ago. Michael was drained, sweat still dripping from his famous sequined glove. His team of 8, all black, all talented, all hungry, stumbled into the first place they spotted. "Thank God," said Frank DeLeo, Michael's manager. "See, I'm starving." Le Chateau restaurant looked fancy enough. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, the works. They walked in, expecting nothing more than a good meal. They had no idea they were about to witness something that would make headlines worldwide. But first, you need to understand what happened 30 seconds after they sat down. A man in an expensive suit approached their table. Not a waiter, not a host. The owner himself, Richard Whitman. "Excuse me," he said, his voice cold as ice. Michael looked up, still catching his breath from the show. "Yes? I'm going to need you gentlemen to leave." Frank frowned. "Is there a problem? We just sat down." Whitman's next words cut through the restaurant like a knife. "This establishment serves whites only. You people need to get out of my restaurant. Now." The entire dining room went silent. You're not going to believe Michael's reaction. Most people would have exploded. Most people would have screamed, argued, demanded justice. Michael Jackson did something completely different. He stood up slowly, looked around the restaurant at all the white faces staring at them. Then he did something that confused everyone, including his own team. He smiled. "Thank you for making that clear," Michael said quietly. Frank was stunned. "Michael, what are you—" "We're leaving," Michael said. "But first—" He pulled out a business card and placed it on the table. "You'll want to call your lawyer in 1 hour." Then he walked out. His team followed, completely confused. Whitman should have stopped him right there. He didn't, because Michael Jackson wasn't just leaving, and he was about to launch something that would destroy everything Whitman had built. But what happened in the next 30 minutes would shock even his own team. The moment they hit the sidewalk, Michael transformed. "Frank, get Dallas Morning News on the phone. Now." "What should I tell them?" "The king of pop just got kicked out of a restaurant for being black. Press conference. Right here. 30 minutes. Frank's eyes went wide. "Michael, are you sure?" Michael's voice was ice. "I've never been more sure of anything." Within 20 minutes, news vans started arriving. Whitman, watching from inside, began to panic. He thought the worst was over. He was wrong. Within 20 minutes, news vans started arriving. Word spreads fast when Michael Jackson is involved. Whitman, watching from inside, began to panic. He ran outside, his face pale. "Mr. Jackson, wait! There's been a misunderstanding." Michael looked at him with those famous eyes. "Has there been?" "Of course. My staff. They made an error. Please, come back inside. Dinner's on the house." The cameras were rolling now. Reporters with microphones pressed forward. Michael stepped up to the microphones. What he said next would be replayed on every news channel in America. But before I tell you his exact words, you need to know about the phone call he'd made while Whitman was panicking. While the restaurant owner was scrambling, Michael had been on his phone, not with lawyers, not with publicists. He called Dr. Caesar Clark, Dallas's most prominent civil rights leader. "Dr. Clark, this is Michael Jackson. I need your help with something." The conversation lasted exactly 3 minutes, and by the end of it, the most powerful network in Black Dallas was mobilizing. Michael wasn't just fighting back. He was launching a coordinated attack. Now, back to that press conference. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael began, his voice carrying across the crowd. "Tonight, I performed for 65,000 people. In that audience were people of every color, every background." He paused, letting that sink in. But apparently, some places in this city still believe the color of your skin determines your worth. A reporter shouted, "What are you going to do about it?" Michael's answer shocked everyone. "I'm not going to do anything." The crowd murmured in confusion. Whitman looked relieved. They had no idea what Michael really meant. "I'm not going to do anything," Michael continued, "because I don't need to, and the people of Dallas will do it for me." That's when Whitman realized the trap he'd walked into. Michael wasn't planning revenge. He was planning something far more devastating: community action. And the phone calls had already started. By morning, something unprecedented was happening across Dallas. Restaurant phones were ringing nonstop, all cancellations. Churches were making announcements. Business leaders were meeting. Within 48 hours, Le Chateau was empty. But how? Michael hadn't organized anything publicly. He'd simply made one phone call the night before. While Whitman was panicking at the press conference, Michael had called Dr. Caesar Clark, Dallas's most powerful civil rights leader. The conversation lasted 3 minutes. By the end, the most influential network in Black Dallas was mobilizing. Michael wasn't just fighting back. He was launching a coordinated attack. The community did the rest. The restaurant that had been booked solid for months was suddenly empty. Not just black customers, white customers started staying away too. Nobody wanted to be associated with such blatant racism. Whitman's phone was ringing nonstop. Cancellations, angry calls, death threats. The financial impact was immediate and brutal. But Michael Jackson wasn't done yet. 3 days later, Whitman got a call that confused him. "This is Michael Jackson's office. Mr. Jackson would like to meet with you." Whitman was desperate. His business was hemorrhaging money. "What does he want?" "To talk? Tonight? 8 p.m. Your restaurant." When Michael arrived, Le Chateau was completely empty except for staff. Whitman was waiting, looking like a broken man. "Please," Whitman begged, "tell me what you want. Money? A public apology? I'll do anything." Michael's response was not what anyone expected. "I don't want your money," Michael said calmly. "I don't want your apology. I want something else. Anything. Name it. I want you to understand what you did, not just to me, but to every person who's ever been judged by their skin color." Whitman was confused. I don't understand." "You will," Michael said, "because I'm about to teach you." What Michael proposed next would change both their lives forever. "You're going to work for me," Michael announced. "Not for money, for education." Whitman's jaw dropped. "Work for you?" "Every Saturday for the next year, you're going to volunteer at inner-city schools. You're going to read to black children. and you're going to learn their stories. And if I refuse? Michael's smile was dangerous. Then the boycott continues, and I make some more phone calls. How long do you think your business can survive? Whitman realized he had no choice, but this was just the beginning. For the next 12 months, Richard Whitman did something no one could have predicted. Every Saturday, he drove to East Dallas and read stories to children who looked just like the customers he'd kicked out. At first, he did it grudgingly, just going through the motions, but something started to change. Month 3. A little girl named Keisha asked him why his voice sounded sad when he read to them. Month 6. A boy named Marcus gave him a drawing of the two of them reading together. Month 9. Whitman started arriving early, bringing books he'd bought with his own money. Month 12. He was crying as he said goodbye to the children on his last required day. But he didn't stop coming. The transformation was complete. 2 years later, Le Chateau had become something unprecedented. The first restaurant in Dallas to actively recruit Black employees for management positions. Whitman had kept coming to the school every Saturday, not because he had to anymore, but because he wanted to. Michael Jackson had done something remarkable. He hadn't just defeated racism, he'd converted a racist. But here's the most incredible part of this entire story. 10 years later, at Michael's memorial service in 2009, one of the speakers was Richard Whitman. "Michael Jackson could have destroyed me," he said through tears. "Instead, he saved me. See, he taught me that the opposite of hate isn't indifference, it's understanding." Michael Jackson didn't fight racism with lawyers or protests. He fought it with education. He turned his biggest enemy into his greatest advocate. Sometimes the most powerful victory isn't destroying someone, it's transforming them. If someone had treated you the way Whitman treated Michael that night, what would you have done?